Hey Pavan, thank you so much for joining this session with me. Especially this is Sunday and you took some time off your day and sharing your amazing stuff about your journey from QA to DevOps. Thanks again for joining this session with me.
Yeah, hi JK. Yeah, for the session as well because I'll get a chance to give my experience and thoughts to your subscribers. Yeah, I'm really glad about that.
That's awesome. Thanks, Pavan. So before we get into the actual
Yeah.
DevOps part, right, I would like to first understand how did QA start for you? Like, is it from the college you have chosen QA, or how did you start with QA at first place?
Yeah, so I got like campus recruitment. So initially, I joined as Accenture as a fresher. So
Mhm.
in the at that time, right? So we don't have opportunity to choose the technology because they only decide it and decide the technology. Like the same friend, like my friend, some other friends, like from mechanical, so they got into Java or SAP. So like that, I got testing. So I don't have option to choose the technology.
Mhm.
Yep.
And basically, as a QA engineer,
Yeah.
were you into the manual QA or you were also doing the automation, Selenium automation and all that stuff as a QA engineer?
Yes. Okay. So initially, I used to do like only manual things only, like creating the scripts, test scripts, and executing them in the application, and storing the results in HPALM. So
Hmm.
initially, I started with manual testing only. Then after that, we had a team for Selenium, so they built the scripts. So I used the scripts to run the automation scripts, like for regression testing. So yeah, I worked on both, manual and automation testing. Yeah.
Okay, so you worked in Accenture as a QA engineer for some time, right? For how many years have you worked as a QA engineer?
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
Sorry, for how many years?
Like more than 3 years. Yeah, yeah, around 3 years I worked as a QA.
Okay. Now, then what triggered you to learn DevOps, right? For example, when QA has good opportunities, maybe people who are doing manual QA, they will upgrade themselves to, automate automation and then find a job elsewhere. So what was the trigger point for you that, okay, now I'm done with QA and I want to get into DevOps?
Okay, so initially, like when I was doing that manual testing, right? So because first 2 years I didn't really anything because I just started as a fresher and I was adapting to the corporate culture and in the weekends I used to spend with friends. So like that, like 2 years gone. So and
Hmm.
after that I realized I was doing the same stuff. So I feel I just want to learn new things because this is not right my platform. So I
Hmm.
want to learn something else. So at the time, RPA was in boom, like robotic process
Yep.
automation. So I thought of learning that. So yeah, there was a UI path as well. So I started learning it.
Hmm.
But actually, that is also not that great. So not in like when I started learning, right? So the calls were reduced. So then I thought of looking for another technology. So at the same time, my friend Abhi, started learning DevOps. He told me like this is a lot of scope is there for DevOps in the future. So why don't you try that? So he told me. So then I started researching about DevOps.
Hmm.
So I just got like what is a DevOps exactly, like what kind of technologies and tools used there. So that's why it started. Yeah.
So when you were learning DevOps, right, how much effort, how much time you had to spend in learning DevOps, and like how many hours of or how many weekends have you wasted in learning DevOps?
Okay, yeah, correctly. Yeah. It takes a bit time because this
Mhm.
is complete new technology, right? Because DevOps is a combination of tools like there are in the cloud technologies as well. So it definitely take a good amount of time. So like initially I started with AWS because I
Mm.
have a friend, so he used to suggest me like what to start with, and then after that like what to do, like what tools and are required for complete deployment process. So he used
Mhm.
to tell me. So yeah, I started with AWS in initially. Then I learned Linux administration side, and then yeah, then slowly started DevOps tools like Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform like this. Yeah, yeah. So that's
And
and also I took like more than 6 months. Yeah, in
okay.
learning this process because sometimes I learn it and there will be some gap. So because
Yeah.
of some family, concerns are, yeah. So that's why I took, and again I used to start, and I used to forget like what I learned before. So yeah,
Yeah, because there are too many tools and too many things to learn, you forget, obviously. But the
correct.
good thing is, because you
Yes,
were
yes, yeah.
already having a job, you are not under pressure
Mm-hmm.
to learn it faster. So that's why I think maybe it helped for you to learn slowly and take your time by learning it, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
And what certifications during this process of learning, when you were learning DevOps, what certifications have you taken?
Okay, so in the beginning, like only there are few companies were asking, certification for interview to take. So
Hmm.
I was thought up to do CK, like Certified Kubernetes Administration, but
Yeah.
I was started learning that, but I didn't get chance to complete it actually. And
Yeah.
then and because all other companies are not asking for certification, so. I was planning, but I never get a chance to do any certification. But this year, I'm planning to do AZ 400, so Azure DevOps one.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
So, I mean, going back to the previous question, right? I think what I missed, maybe I forgot to ask you, is that, yeah, you wanted to learn RPA, or you wanted to learn some other new technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being in the QA engineer. So was it
Mm-hmm.
because of the
Yeah.
money that motivated you to learn a new technology, or you wanted to get away from QA and switch to a new company or something like that? Like, what was the main trigger point for that, to, switch or to learn DevOps or RPA?
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's a both because
Mm,
when I work as a QA engineer, right, the hike was very low. So compared
right.
to with my friend, so he's work as a mainframe developer. So he used to get some like three times hike than me. So I
Hmm.
got triggered like why I'm not getting it. So I am also spending a lot of time and in testing this application, but still I'm getting very less. And also I'm doing the routine work. It's not a great, like only I get the application knowledge, but not anything else. So yeah, this mainly triggered me to look for the new technologies. Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Because, yeah,
yeah.
when people move, I think, even from, in my case also, there should be always some triggers, that will
Mm-hmm.
motivate you to
Yes,
learn
yes.
faster. Else, if you are picking up some
Yeah.
technology just for the sake of picking it up, then you will not do it faster. And you'll feel like,
Yeah,
okay,
correct.
I'm fine with QA, I'm fine with the salary, I'll just try to upgrade a little bit in the company,
Mm-hmm.
or move to a higher position in the same company. Yep, that's
Okay. Yeah, correct.
insightful thing. And what were the challenges that you had faced while you were learning DevOps? Like, obviously, in QA, you used to work on only some tools, right? Like HP or whatever, a quality center,
Mm-hmm.
all those things,
Yeah.
and then maybe Selenium. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to DevOps, you
Yeah.
have to completely transition, right, from your QA mindset to a
Yes,
more
correct.
operation oriented mindset, learning tools and getting into that part, right? So, what were the main challenges that you faced during the learning phase?
Okay, so main challenge is like, initially I started with cloud, right? So
Hmm.
after some gap, I again I forget it. So what I understood, only the learning the theoretical is not the way to learn the DevOps.
Right.
So then I started, practicing it. Like, if I want to practice in AWS, then I created one account in the AWS, like, because
Yeah.
we have a student account for 1 year. So
Hmm.
I created it. I created a VMs there, and created a Kubernetes cluster and created VPC. Like that, I practiced initially. And also coming to the Kubernetes, so initially, like when you look at the Kubernetes, right? So you don't get anything. Like if you watch the videos, it's kind of rocket science. In the at the first time you watch the videos, yeah.
Yeah.
So but then I started yeah, so then I started creating the cluster own like manually, and deploying the pods there, and and issuing the commands, and observing the results. So this all I did. Then I started gaining confidence slowly. So then I yeah, so then after that I was good with those tools. Yeah.
So the main two things that you said, which is very important while learning, I think, is that, one, you said theoretical part is not important, not sufficient for DevOps, right?
Yes,
So
correct.
that's
Yeah.
why you had to immediately you started practicing more. And I think the biggest takeaway
Yes.
there is that you immediately had created an AWS account, right? Like most of the people would not do that.
Correct. Yeah.
They'll do it after 3 or 4 months, and then they'll get to that part. So that was one
Yes.
good thing
Correct. Yeah. It's
that you had done.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
talking about Kubernetes being rocket science, it is still rocket science to me. Like there were too many moving
No.
parts,
No. Okay.
right? After even like,
Yeah. Correct.
but I agree with you. It's
Yeah.
complex. It is not easy. But you have again,
Correct.
you try to create the cluster. I mean, that's how you can make it much easier or relatively easier to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's a good takeaway.
Correct. Yes.
Um, Now,
Yeah.
learning part is easy, right, Pawan? Everybody will learn technology, machine learning, or anything. People might spend some
Mm-hmm.
time, 6 months to 1 year, you can learn. But the toughest thing is how you're going to apply for a job, or how you're going to prepare the resume, and how you're going to explain to the person
Mm-hmm.
that you had some DevOps experience from QA background.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you prepare your resume
Okay.
uh, from QA to DevOps?
Okay. So, like my first company itself, I got a chance to work on few tools like Jenkins, Docker, and Kubernetes, and AWS because I just switched to another project. So I got a
In
chance. I
Accenture.
got some exposure to those tools. So
Yeah.
yeah, in Accenture.
Hmm.
So I added those, yeah, those experience I added in the resume. And also, I got few points from my friend because he already has some experience. So I took some points from his experience and I added it and I just made it a meaningful resume. So then also I prepared the resume completely because if we go to the interview, they only ask the inside the resume only. They
Yeah.
never go to out of resume. So that's why I just prepared with the resume and I was ready. Yeah.
Okay. And how was your interview experience? Especially when they looked at your when they look at your resume, they look at two sections, right? One section is your QA engineer section in Accenture, and obviously you have some tools and
Mm-hmm.
Jenkins there, but your
Mm-hmm.
main experience was QA, unless you
Mm-hmm.
had you had removed that. Uh, but and
Mm-hmm.
then when you apply as a DevOps engineer, they would ask you questions around, okay, what have you exactly done in Accenture? Explain about more about your Kubernetes project in Accenture. So how did you convince them that you have worked on these tools or POCs?
Yeah, so most of the ask them like about QA and like how you switch to QA and how did you get a chance to work on these tools and all.
Yeah.
So I told, right. So I got some exposure to on this tool so that I was able to answer this question like, but not in high level. A few questions itself answered. So
Hmm.
that yeah, they are satisfied with those answers initially. And also in the initial interviews, I used to afraid because they may ask more questions like may if I don't know the one question, that effect will be on the other question.
Yeah.
So that's why in the initially the interview was not that good. So what I did, I attend the interview just to know the what exactly they are asking, what is the trend is going on. So I attended like 6 7 interviews and I wrote
Mhm.
like more than 50 questions. So
Okay.
I wrote those questions. I prepared with that questions so that those helped me cracking the next interviews. Yeah.
So you had attended
Yeah.
these interviews during the course of your preparation or after your preparation was done?
After preparation, unless during preparation we are not that much confident, right? So
Okay.
I prepared well, I resume. Then only I started applying for the jobs. Yeah.
Okay. So now, since how many years have you
Okay.
been working as a DevOps engineer, Pawan? After 3 years of Accenture, now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, current now more than 5 years I'm working as a DevOps engineer now. So I
Okay.
worked on many tools like AWS and Azure and other DevOps tools like Kubernetes, Terraform, Docker, and Jenkins, GitLab, Azure DevOps. So I worked on these technologies.
Okay. So you have 5 years of experience, which is amazing experience. What
Y-
does how does your day
Yes.
look like currently? If you were to tell this to someone, how does a DevOps engineer, how does your day start? And then what are the main things that you do in a day or in a week?
Okay, so I'll take this question from the beginning of my the current company. So
Okay.
initially when I started, right, so there was no pipeline setup.
Mm-hmm.
So we created, like, we have one manager, so he is very interested in DevOps kind of stuff. So he's also, so we both connect, and we were in the calls more than like 8 to 9 hours daily.
Mm.
So we were like setting up the pipelines and troubleshooting it, and if something is breaking, so where was breaking, so is there an issue with the Docker file or the
Mm-hmm.
pipeline issue, or in the gateway side, like application gateway issue. So all these things we used to trouble, and make it the environment ready. So we used to
Yeah.
spend, because I need to match with the US times, because he sits in US. So
Mm-hmm.
I work with him well. And yeah, so and after that, once the environment is set up and it is good, then our job is that it becomes easy that time. So
Right.
we do the deployments in dev queue environments, and staging also. We push the latest major releases into the staging. So these things, and also we'll closely work with the developers. So if developer wanted some environment to be ready, so for
Yep.
his local environment, so I'll help him like how to set up it, because Docker environment he wanted. So I'll give him the Docker files, and I deploy using, let's say, Docker Compose in the local machine. So that's why I'll help you the developers on daily basis. We'll get some work items in the Azure DevOps or Jira tickets. They will assign it. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll work on it, and let's say attend daily stand up meetings, and we'll update our status. Yeah. So this is a daily activities.
Okay. So, were you like, did you had any night shifts, solving operations issues in the night or production related issues or something like that?
Yeah, so actually it is not night shift, but I used to do night shift completely.
Oh.
Once, like I think 3, 4 times I was in the call more than 12 hours, like evening 6 to
Mm-hmm.
morning 6 a.m. So
Mm-hmm.
we were in 12 hours call with to the team, because they sits in the US. So I work with them, because next day we have to give the demo. The client is looking for the demo. So we should be ready with the environment. So that's how we did, like in this company, I experienced this all of the stuff, like one software guy do, right? So yeah.
I think that was primarily because you had to provide an overlap with the onshore, since most of the team was in US, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And this question I get a lot of time from my community members is, how often uh, do
Mhm.
you have to code as a DevOps engineer, or did you code as a DevOps engineer?
Okay, so I didn't get a chance to code for a development side, because we have already dev team. But coding in the sense, in our pipeline, it's required like some
Yeah.
Groovy code or YAML based, or and then Bash or PowerShell scripting. So
Mm-hmm.
this requires to automate our pipelines, like CD pipeline. So some extent it requires, but not you need to be very familiar with those technologies. But you can get the syntax, and you should be good with the logic, but syntax you can get it from the articles or internet, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can test it locally, and then you can implement where it is required. So I think you need to small familiar is enough, and you can do the tasks and jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point, because end of the day you have to automate in DevOps. So at least you need to know
Yes.
like scripting languages, like you said, shell scripting or PowerShell if you're
Hmm.
using Azure or Windows, or Windows in
Yes.
Azure, and then Python, or or YAML based like Terraform uh, based languages, or the language that are used by Ansible and Terraform, right? Okay,
Correct. Yeah.
that makes sense. And then how
Yeah.
much was the pay difference? This is an interesting question, and because you one of the triggering point was also pay,
Hmm.
right? um, how much
Yeah.
was the difference from your QA to the DevOps, uh, when you have changed the company?
Okay, so it's around like more than 5 times.
Hmm.
Yeah, because that QA was very less, and so I worked as 3 years as a QA, right? So when I compared from that package, right? So now it's more than 5 times now.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. And obviously, because
Yeah.
you joined as a fresher in Accenture, even like after three
Yes.
years, you must have had some hikes. But you are comparing that
Yeah.
with the final one, right? Like when you came out of Accenture
Yeah,
and the
final
offer
hike.
that you
Yeah,
got in the
final.
okay, that still it is 5 times. That's amazing.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, yes. Yeah.
A- And now do you I don't want to put you in trouble, but do you still attend interviews?
Yes, I do. I am attending because I just want to check well, like how my knowledge. Like I just
That's
check
correct.
because if you attend, right, you will get to know the what is the trend of the questions and what
Right.
technologies like other companies are using.
Hmm.
So in order to keep me up to date, so I sometimes I attend interviews. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's a genuine answer.
yeah.
And did QA experience help at all in your DevOps job, in a day-to-day job, or in general?
Okay, so in the interview, the QA will not help that
Right.
experience, but in my job it helped because
Hmm.
you know, yeah. So we deploy the application, then we cannot give directly to the QA to test it because we need to do some high level testing because last time implemented our new functionalities is updated or not. We need to check first. So I used to do some high level testing in the application and some and then only I will. QL team let know like about the testing so that I send a mail so they start testing.
Okay. I can relate to that as well, because whenever I moved
Mm-hmm.
from QA to DevOps, I felt like, I mean, the more you move from different technologies, you will have a holistic overview of the whole SDLC pipeline, right? So you can always suggest or you can make
Mm-hmm.
changes.
Yeah,
You'll have better control of the things, right? In DevOps as well. So
correct. Yeah.
so these two are the last questions, Pavan, and I think this is like
Mm-hmm.
completely
Yeah.
your choice how you want to answer this. So mostly for people who are moving away from QA, or let's say system administration, or any such any such background where they are currently stuck for last few years and they want to move to come to DevOps.
Mm-hmm.
What are your suggestions?
Okay.
How should they plan and how should they move or
Mm-hmm.
learn and get a job as a DevOps engineer from like now?
Okay. So first, they need to fix it. Like they want to really pursue DevOps. So
Hmm.
first they have some clarity. So they because they need to spend some time on it. So
Yeah.
then they should start with any course. Like there are many courses available,
Hmm.
but the course and if you take any Simply Learn or EduRec or something else, but
Yeah.
it takes some time. But
Right.
my best suggestion is have a friend or colleague who is working in DevOps.
Right.
So that really helps because he will give some suggestions like where to start, what to start, and after that what to learn. So if you stuck, he will immediately help you there. So I think if you have some guidance, then it will be a bit faster than going with the normal courses in online courses. So they because they
Hmm.
also help how to write resume, and also they will share their experiences like real time experiences they'll give you, and they will explain about their projects so that you will get much confidence in the initial stage itself.
Hmm.
Otherwise if you just simply go to the online courses and all, it's kind of theory only, you don't get
Yeah.
the videos are very lengthy, so you don't get much time to practice.
Right.
So then it will you don't get much confidence there. So my suggestion is have some guidance from your friends or colleague, then it will be easy. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Pawan. So first of all, make up your mind because it's going to be a long journey, three
Yes.
months or 6 months, based on your
Correct.
experience and how fast you can learn. And then the second
Mm-hmm.
thing that you said is very important. Have some mentorship because they're the ones who are going to give you the right experience of, or they're going to share the right experience from their real experience, that how they are working. Like you had good friends. I think Ajit was one of your friend, and Ajit had
Yes.
somebody else as his friend. As he was sharing in his previous video, he also said like he was taking help of Indra or someone. So that's I think common pattern. With
Mm-hmm.
whoever is changing, they should have the right
Yes.
people around them to guide them. So that way it will be much faster and much easier, right, to get into
Correct. Yes.
or to learn any technology. um I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that's a wrap, and those are the questions I had. Before I let you go, Pawan, any final thoughts or recommendations that you would like to share?
Okay, so I think DevOps is a future because there are a lot of scope for DevOps because a lot of companies, almost all companies started using DevOps because it is
Mm.
kind of mindset or practice we can say. So it
Yeah.
will faster the deployments or faster the SDLC cycle. So that's why it's either you go to the development side or the DevOps. So
Mm.
it's if you're afraid of coding, right? So DevOps is a good choice, and actually it is very interesting because
Yeah.
if you are doing some task and you're not resolving it, so you resolve it after 2 days, so you will feel very happy. So
Mm.
that's how I used to do the tasks, and put time on those tasks. So I'll resolve it like that. It is very interesting. So you won't get bored because you'll get many challenges and issues. So you are ready to resolve them. So that's how, if you are really interested, then right away start learning DevOps, have some mentorship, and you'll easily learn it. It's not a big deal if you put some time and confidence. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really
Yeah.
you have put together very well. Because people who are
Yeah.
still worried or thinking about whether they should switch, I think they should not have any second thought
Mm-hmm.
about it. Since you are right now look, I
Yeah.
mean, attending the jobs, and you are in the market right now, so you have more experience than me
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not taking any calls. But thanks again, Pawan, for sharing your amazing experience. I'm sure that whatever you have shared for people who are experienced who want to switch, will definitely help them. Looking forward to have more conversations with you, people like you and Ajit and others, and then we can all come together maybe in another calls and see how we can solve some real world problems, having a live session with people. But thanks again, Pawan, for joining this session, uh, taking time on Sunday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, JK. Yeah, thanks for this opportunity as well.